The 3D platformer is a genre that has been mostly left to the era of the old Nintendo, where some of the most critically acclaimed platformers such as Super Mario 64 and Banjo-Kazooie sit on their cartoony thrones. Much like the good modern war shooters, the 3D platformer has been dormant, getting almost no mainstay entries other than Yooka-Laylee and Super Lucky's Tale, and even then, those could be a stretch. So you can imagine the breath of fresh air that was A Hat in Time. Hello everyone, my name is Koji, and today we will look at the colorful and wacky world of A Hat in Time. Released on October 5th, 2017, and created by Gears for Breakfast, one of the most uniquely named studios I've ever heard of. A Hat in Time is a nice new take on the 3D platformer, boasting across 4 sprawling worlds with 2 more as an extra DLC, all with a unique theme, story, stellar soundtrack, and loaded with personality and charm. You play as the appropriately named Hat Kid, who is apparently an alien that looks suspiciously like a human. On your way home, your spaceship gets stopped by a member of the Mafia, a gang of well-dressed chefs that apparently can breathe in space. They demand that you pay a toll for seemingly getting too close to their island, and as expected, stuff goes south and these hourglasses called timepieces fly out of your ship and onto Earth, where you must now track down every last one. From the moment you land in the game, you're gonna feel how ridiculously fluid these controls are. Platformers basically make or break on their controls alone, and I can confidently say that this game passes that hurdle in leaps and bounds. The controls are extremely smooth. You can double jump, dive from both the ground and midair, and if a targetable enemy is nearby, you can torpedo yourself at them to deal damage. You can also perform a perfect dive. By diving from the ground and then pressing the crouch button to cancel the dive as soon as you land on the ground, this punts you into the air a little bit and gives you a large burst of speed. As far as I'm aware, there's no practical use for this unless you're a speedrunner, but it is still super satisfying to pull off either way. Using these basic movement tools, you will travel across a total of 6 vibrantly colored worlds that feature a cast of characters that can all be described in about 5 words or less. For example, Hat Girl, comedically stupid gangster, evil facial hair, likes trains, likes Elvis, fetch me their souls, I have 2 smokes, and cat-themed mob boss. But don't fall into the trap of thinking that these characters are shallow because of it. Though each one leans really heavily on one specific personality trait, they take that one and run home with it. Each character is fully voiced, with a lot to say too. Even the minor ones, like Cooking Cat and the Snatcher's minions, are beaming with charm. Even after several playthroughs, you won't want to skip any dialogue because of how great these characters are. The hub world is your spaceship, with different parts of it opening up as you collect more timepieces. It features a talking Roomba, a mailroom, and a secret hidey hole. After the Mafia ruin your day and you lose all your things, you are dropped into the first actual world of the game. Mafia Town is a small island populated with 1 tourist and, you guessed it, the Mafia. Unlike the other worlds, this is one of the few that actually looks as big as it is. It features a marketplace and apparently is built on a volcano. This is a really good introduction to the game. There's a good mix of vertical and horizontal space to move around in, making it a perfect space for getting the player used to the controls. It also introduces you to this game's collection of hats. The top hat that you start with will point you to the direction of the next objective. The speed visor makes you run fast and restricts you from double jumping while activated. The Witch Hat lets you charge up and throw an explosive potion that breaks everything with yellow caution tape on it. The Ice Beanie turns you into a heavy statue of ice that can be used on ice pads to launch you into other areas or go down manholes. The Dimension Mask lets you temporarily see objects from another dimension, which are indicated with a green outline. Then there's the Time Hat, a late game item that will slow time, which becomes almost invaluable in a portion of the game we will talk about later. Mafia Town is basically one big tutorial world, and a really good one if that. It has a few interesting goals, one where you terrorize one smart mafia as a mud monster, and one where you save Mafia Town from burning by turning off all the faucets that for some reason are connected to the volcano, with the world boss being a stage play against the Mafia boss. The next world is an outlier from the rest of the game, not having one big area where you do your task, but having levels specifically made around them. Set inside of a movie studio, you are introduced to the conductor and DJ Grooves, 2 directors for Dead Bird Studios that are competing to win the yearly Bird Movie Award trophy. After racking up a hefty fine for being a general nuisance to the staff and assaulting a cactus, you are invited to star in the movies for both sides. The following levels have you play out scenarios in each bird's respective set piece, like solving a murder mystery on the Owl Express train or becoming the paparazzi by garnering fans on DJ Groove's moon set. The murder mystery mission is particularly special. You find out that one of the Express Owls is dead, and as the detective, you sneak around the train to collect evidence. There are a total of 6 files to collect, all that point to a different killer. And if you find all of them or run out of time, you get to point a finger at whoever you want. There's no wrong answer here, and each possible culprit has a pretty entertaining cutscene if you pin the crime on them. At the end of each stage, or movie in this case, you gain points for the corresponding director. After completing both movies for both birds, the winner is chosen. The winner will dictate who you fight as this world's boss. Now, for a colorful platformer, you would think that no substantial challenge would come of the bosses or really any point in this game for the matter, but you have fallen into the game's trap. A Hat in Time punches you in the face with how hard these bosses get. These will test your mettle, but as out of place as the difficulty seems to be, it is really fun and really satisfying to beat. Next is the mildly morbid Subcon Forest. This is a very large world, or at least it seems like one. Thick fog covers your view, so it's easy to get lost, and it's even harder to find time rifts. Oh yeah, I almost forgot about time rifts. After collecting around half of the world's timepieces, a time rift will open somewhere in the world. Using the photo hint that you are given, and then touching the rift, you will be transported to a blue void-looking area where you must complete a set of platforming challenges to get a timepiece. And if these levels remind you of a little certain game you may have heard of it's called Super Mario Sunshine, then you're in the right to think so. If you find a purple time rift opened by the creation of a relic, the challenge will be to find special crown pawns in small condensed portions of each world. There are also tickets that you can collect that will give you some photographs showing a short story on how the residents of an area got there. Anyway, back to the forest. This is the land of Snatcher, a spooky ghost guy who traps you and then forces you to sell your soul so you can do his chores. The contracts he makes you sign bind you to getting rid of some fire spirits and doing some other tasks, as well as becoming a 24/7 Fortnite streamer. Yes, that is what it says, and I think we can all get a pretty good laugh out of it. This is the level that makes it clear that despite the lighthearted cel-shaded graphics, this is not a game for kids. The haunted ice mansion is a bit more scary than it ought to be, and these sentient ropes say some pretty morbid and uncomfortable thing when you hang from them.
You know, I haven't seen a good solid neck like yours for a long time. I wouldn't mind being strapped around a cute neck like yours.
All of this wraps up with a face-off against Snatcher himself. A challenging battle that took me several tries. The Alpine Skyline is the last of the base game's levels, and it's just okay. Compared to the rest of the game, it's really large and underwhelming. It's personally my least favorite in the game, having only one memorable timepiece worth talking about, and that is the Twilight Bell. The Twilight Bell itself is a large artifact that when rang transports you to a void-like space that is mostly centered around the use of the dimension masks. This is by far my favorite timepiece in the game. I honestly would not have minded if the whole game was based around this platform and puzzle solving mix. This took full advantage of the dimension mask to create a very fun and memorable challenge. The Alpine Skyline also has a lava area and a birdhouse.
Hi, this is clearly a safe place for a child to be.
And ends with a run against these purple plants that progressively start to plague the area. And those are all the stages for the base game. The final level is opened after you get 25 of the base 40 timepieces. At that point, Mustache Girl, who has been relatively absent from the game, sneaks into your ship and takes all of the timepieces you've collected thus far. When you go after her, you realize that she has used them to turn back time and change everything to where she rules the world. As you approach her castle, you see all of the characters that you've met up to this point lined up for judgment. After entering her castle and passing her gauntlet that tests everything you have learned so far, you come face to face with her. She talks about justice and order, and then proceeds to fight you after realizing that you're here to take your stuff back. This is one of the hardest tasks in the game, fitting for a final boss. After beating her up a bit, the crowd begins to help you out. You finally beat her and make her face plant on the ground. You then grab all your stolen timepieces, and that's all for the base game. But if you're still wanting more of this admittedly short game, there are 2 DLC available, along with a bunch of community-made mods that can be accessed in your ship's mailroom. The Arctic Cruise is part of the Seal the Deal DLC, and it's exactly what it sounds like, a cruise in the Arctic. After greeting the captain, who hates his crew so much he needs to have 2 smokes at once at all times, the crew in question are seals that speak very improper English and are very unqualified to run a cruise ship. The level itself, while the most visually appealing, has, in my opinion, the worst layout of all the locales in the game. While most other areas are natural open areas with goals and tasks within them, the cruise ship is the opposite. It's a maze, and while a maze is not inherently a bad thing, it does not work well here. So much of your time will be backtracking and following your objective marker, which helps very little in a level like this. But the saving grace is how all of this is presented. It is a chaotic and metaphorically sinking ship, where the staff can't do their job well, and obstacles are constantly keeping you on your toes. Also, just a side note, these are supposed to be baby owls. Let that sink in. Owls. A good level, but underwhelming compared to the rest of the game. The second DLC introduced the Nyakuzen Metro, a cat-themed subway. What more could you ask for? Now, after the cruise, I had hoped that this was a large, sprawling world, but I was not given such. But I also kind of was. It's weird. This area mixes both open and linear segments very well, with linear bits being mostly relegated to platforming challenges elevated above a larger area, which makes the whole experience much better. You start in the heart of the metro. This is where all the linear paths branch from. You get your first piece, and then you meet with the Empress, a mob boss who sets up shop as a jewelry store clerk. She takes any timepieces that you find, and then pays you for them. And now, for a small, annoying rant about this. Throughout the metro, you can visit food trucks to get stuff to eat. You pay for this using pawns, which means that pawns are an accepted currency around here. So then why is this lady giving us anything but pawns? We can't use it for anything. In fact, it just piles up on the hub world. Anyway, moving on. To traverse the metro, you will need metro passes that unlock more of the world as you go. After collecting all of the available timepieces, you steal them back from the Empress, who has been taking them this whole time. She catches you, and instead of attacking you, while you're right in front of her, she tells everyone in the metro that there's a $1 million prize for your capture. You make your escape as she shoots rockets at you, which she, for some reason, didn't do while you were right in front of her. By using the power of being the protagonist, you make your escape, a very worthwhile DLC. Hey you! Yes you! Do you like to actually enjoy your gaming time? No? Well, you're in luck, because Gears for Breakfast included a little bonus in the Seal the Deal DLC, introducing Death Wish mode. Perfect for masochists and people who hate fun. Remember that time hat? You know, the one that's basically useless everywhere else? Yeah, this is where you're gonna need it. Instead of new worlds, Death Wish mode remixes existing areas and objectives to make everything you do hard and unreasonable. A Hat in Time already had some of its challenging parts, but this turns this into the entire game. With over 100 objectives, this will fuel the same hunger that drives people to play Dark Souls. There isn't really a lot to say other than how stupidly difficult this mode is. Trying to beat this mode will easily triple your playtime. A Hat in Time is a great throwback to the age of the 3D platformer. Its stunning visuals, charming cast of characters, and fluid gameplay make it a must-have for any game library. Whether you want to play casually or get ultimate bragging rights through Death Wishes, everyone can find something to enjoy here. Definitely worth a try if you haven't already. Thank you all so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed, please leave a like and a subscribe. I will see you all on the next video.